This week it may seem odd, but there were two small facts that made this vehicle just step up just a hair in my opinion. One of them being how it performed during a golf outing, and the other one simply the cruise control. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, those two minimal points actually made a big impression on me. This vehicle being the 2019 Nissan Altima. It seems simple, but the golf outing truly set the tone for this week's test drive. And really, for many of us, that's what it's all about. How does the vehicle get us there? How safe and reliable is it? And at the end of the day, just how comfortable and really relaxing it is. Because when I hit the 18 holes with friends, I definitely want to get in my Tiger Woods mentality. And this vehicle made it so much simpler and easier to get there. One of the big decisions long before you think about the first hole is how you getting there. A lot of times who's picking up who, where are we meeting, and well, it's just much more fun to all ride together. And sometimes vehicles don't measure up, so everyone has to drive separate. But what's great here on the Altima is it truly is in the upper mid-size segment, handling a foursome with ease here in the cabin, not to mention their bags there in the cargo area. And it's all because of the overall numbers. What you're going to see is 193 inches overall, wheelbase around about 111. As for width, fairly decent, around about 6 feet, and height just under 5 feet tall. The unsung hero on a lot of sedans, well, is the trunk, and a lot of times that's because, well, it just doesn't measure up, or well, it's an afterthought because pretty much we're putting groceries in there and we forget all about it. But it's in those pinches, those, well, weekend trips, the weekend getaways, or even the week-long excursion. And for me, well, it was all about the 18 holes. Haven't mentioned that. And where it all comes into play is here at the back end. Now, it's a very modest offering, nice simple rear deck lid, good backup camera, backup sensors, pretty much standard, nothing missing there. But the step up again here on the Altima is the amount of cargo space. Now, don't forget, the Maxima is the flagship design here on the Altima. Of course, a little bit more subdued, yielding to the Maxima, but I tended to like that, tended to blend in with the traffic this week, didn't stand out. A lot of competition, too edgy, too flashy. This, well, just kind of nice and simple. This again here at the cargo was the wow factor. Now, where it all begins is being able to take the buddies and the clubs. Now, what you're going to see is a nice electronic release. This easily swings up out of the way. Typical cavernous area, that's to be expected, but what I like is it really gets down low, pretty open right through here. But a crucial point is these outer haunches and how they dive in, really enveloping the bags to the outer edges. Real nice and easy to get the bag inside. And what you do is you pretty much swing out, and what you're going to notice is really these outer niches really handle the length of the bags. Now, simply right here, you can put a second one, and for the others, they're going to tuck in. They will demand a little bit more angling because of those rear wheel wells, but you definitely have plenty of room. Now, when it came to power plants, this vehicle definitely isn't comparable to the golf cart, but there are two options. This one coming with the less spirited engine that really didn't mimic a golf cart, but well, the other one seemed a little bit more rocket science. Now, what I'm referring to is this is the 2.5 liter inline four cylinder. The other one is a 2.0 turbocharged version. The difference really is kind of a big deal. What you're going to see here is around about 188 horses and 180 foot-pounds of torque. On the slightly more spirited engine, well, that's going to be 248 horses but 280 foot-pounds of torque. Now, granted, this is the front-wheel drive, and the 2.5 does come with an optional all-wheel drive. You will lose a little bit of horsepower, but not enough to write home about. But what I liked is, well, this vehicle still had a nice get up and go. It didn't have a lot of whine or any screaming with this four-cylinder, so I'd argue that even though it was golf cart-ish, it still truly delivered, even with the smaller 2.5. When you look at legroom numbers, front seat always going to be more than abundant on most vehicles, specifically here on the Altima, around about 43 inches. Now, what's great about that, almost too much for most individuals. Where that's going to translate is into back seat comfort. Now, what you're going to see back here, standard around about 35 inches, but again, with the extra legroom up front, those front seats are easily going to slide forward. Now, what I like is the overall comfort, very cushiony and supportive, typical bench styling here at the back, a little bit of a raised hump there for a fifth individual in the middle. Nice center console that can flip down for elbow support, but really individualized attention here on the back seats. Almost sport styling, but not too enveloping, but plenty of room again for you and your three buddies. Summer golfing isn't the coolest of sports, so what's going to help is really these rear vents easily directing air quickly to the back seat passengers. Now, also what you're going to see is chargeability, connectivity with the USB-C and USB. I'm not positive when it happened, but something really occurred here with the touchscreen systems on Nissan. Really, they've stepped up their game, both in overall size, usability, and also color interface. Now, what I like is really just the nice entertainment side of things, real easy to use. Pretty much I love when it's equipped with satellite, really a lot of information, nice presets down below that you can scroll through, get more options. Now, symmetry is a must, nice symmetric knob when it comes to volume and tune select. Very minimal buttons down here, pretty much everything you need right there on the screen. Now, what I do like here on this particular model is dual zones, real easy to use. Now, one thing you'll note is that does not translate to the screen up above. I wouldn't mind if they integrate it, because when you're going down the road, it is simpler to just simply look at this screen than looking all the way down, especially if you're changing the temperature settings, really dialing in specific. Now, right in the middle, you will find fan speed in the form of these two buttons. Again, would prefer just 3 symmetric knobs, the middle one being for fan speed. The buttons, again, just something you have to dial into really mentally when you're kind of reaching down here. You don't really find these as easy as you would a knob. As for the rest of the buttons, really easy to use. Nice digital readout, giving you the good old temperature display. Do have some other functions, the heated steering wheel button there, and your heated seats in the front. What I do like is on some other vehicles, this little button alone is hidden oftentimes way over on the left side of the dash. This is a nice central place to put it. Underneath the dash, you will find this nice storage area for your phones or whatever as you connect them and charge them up. You do have USB, USB-C, auxiliary jack, and traditional power supply. Now, I'm not sure of all the options, but what would be nice is if this is an optional wireless charging area. A lot of vehicles going that route, put your phones here, forget about it. It does also appear to be big enough to support many of the big phones, so I would like to know, maybe that is an option. Certainly when you're out on the golf course, or at least coming off, one thing you're going to want is beverage holders. Now, one thing I like for Nissan to step up to is grippers around the cup holders. These are just plastic, rigid. You put the drink, if it's too small, it's just going to kind of bobble around. Wouldn't hurt to put a little spring-loaded or even cushiony material in here. That's just going to help hold the drinks, especially if you have a bottle, Dr. Pepper, whatever. It's just typically going to slide around and do a little bit of a noisy affair when you're going down the road. If you're looking for the push start button, don't look in the traditional area, but instead right in front of the gear shifter. Now, that's not really a complaint, just noting where it's at. Now, as for the gear shifter, one thing you'll notice, just standard operation. There is no manual-like mode, but again, this is just a standard 4-cylinder. Didn't expect it to be, well, sporty at all. Now, before I get to the next big feature I mentioned at the beginning of the show, let's talk about the gauge cluster. Huge analog tach and speedometer, but a nice digital readout there in the middle. Now, it does have nice speed digital readout there if you want it, but one thing I fixated on, which is the other big point on this vehicle, is the cruise control. Now, you're going to find it over here on the right side. It took me just a second to get used to it. This really is the cruise control on and off. Does have this adaptive cruise control. You set the spacing between you and the other vehicles. Of course, traditional settings here as well. Now, basically what this vehicle did is had somewhat of an autonomous driving, but you pretty much press that, set the speed, and then up here in the middle, what you'll see is those outer blue lines are the lane. Of course, the spacing, if there's a vehicle in front of you, lets you know. And the vehicle is pretty much going to somewhat drive itself. Now, you definitely don't let go of the steering wheel. It's not autonomous, and it will definitely let you know if it senses you're not holding the steering wheel. But what I like is it just made the drive so much simpler. Now, I haven't definitely migrated to an autonomous vehicle by any means, but just the fact that the cruise control knew everything going on around me made the driving a little bit simpler. Well, I actually kind of dig that this week. If you do want to go kind of standard cruise control, you can turn off that kind of autonomous feel and simply do the old school by letting it steer back and forth with the old hand. But what I like is with the lane assist, this steering wheel is going to give gradual turns left and right. Almost feel like it's driving itself, but again, keep a good grip because it's going to let you know. Center console gives you nice elbow support. Does have kind of a equator line right down the middle, so everyone knows there's space for their elbow, so really no fighting because this tells you where to keep it. Now, what you also see is pretty much a straightforward center console. Nice upper tray. It can be positioned wherever you like it. Fairly deep, but one thing to note, no connectivity in here. Pretty much just going to store items. And that does it for this edition. We're in a test drive behind the wheel of the 2019 Nissan Altima, a vehicle that truly delivered by simply getting me to a golf outing. And sometimes we have to give pause and remind us of what we're doing and how we got there, because it's really about the experience, about hanging out with friends, maybe family, and really our vehicles truly deliver. And the Nissan went well above, basically with overall comfort, room enough for the cargo, and at the end of the day, just having a good time getting out of the office. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.